Welcome everyone, it's Mary with Happy Pine Soap. So glad to see you all back here. Today we're going to learn how to make a feather swirl in cold process soap. This is such a lovely and simple design and elegant. It's one of my favorites, and it requires a fluid soap batter and a well-behaved fragrance. Let's get started. I'm using one of my favorite fragrances. This is Love Spell from Brambleberry. It is a wonderful fragrance that behaves very nicely in cold process soap. And as you see, I'm weighing it out here. Brambleberry has a wonderful fragrance calculator online that you can use to find out how much to use for your specific soap recipe. I went ahead and added kaolin clay to this soap recipe today. Kaolin clay is a wonderful additive that adds a wonderful slip to the soap. When you use it, basically how easily it glides over the skin. Plus, clay just has great benefits for skin. My recipe is a 3-pound batch, and I'm going to add 3 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons of the clay to my fragrance. And then I'm going to use a mini mixer to blend the clay really well into the fragrance. Some people like to do this all the time with their soaps so that it helps the fragrance stick in the bar a lot longer, prevents the fragrance from fading. I like it just because kaolin clay is just a wonderful additive in general, but this is an easy way to incorporate it without it causing white spots in your soap later. We're going with a toned down color scheme today, so we'll just be using 3 colors. They are all from Mad Micas. I like to add all of my colors to a little bit of sweet almond oil, and then I blend them. And so all my colors are ready to go by the time my soap has been blended. So I like to add the mica first to a separate container. Here you see me measuring it out carefully. And then I'll add the sweet almond oil and mix them again with the mini blender basically. The blue portion will be a lot larger than the other 2 colors. Basically 2 pounds of my soap will be the blue color, and 8 ounces each will be my black and white colors. Because the remaining soap colors will have less soap batter, I have reduced the measurements on these. Spacewalk will get 1/2 teaspoon color to 1/2 tablespoon of sweet almond oil. Snow White will be an exception here. When you're using a white mica, it's actually okay to use a bit more so that the white color stays true in the soap as opposed to fading. So I boosted the measurements just a little bit for this portion to 1 teaspoon mica and 1 tablespoon sweet almond oil. With every soap recipe I do, I like to melt my hard oils separately from my soft ones. The soft ones will be added to the warm hard oils that have been melted basically. And I like to do this because hard oils have a higher melting temp than soft oils. Those are the ones that are liquid at room temperature. And it's also nice to bring down the oil temperature just naturally on its own by adding the room temperature soft oils to my melted hard oils. I like to melt my oils in about 60 seconds at a time in the microwave until they reach about 150 degrees. The cocoa butter here, you see, is always the last to melt, so I have to carefully keep microwaving it until it melts completely. And that usually happens around 150 degrees for cocoa butter. Now we're ready to add the soft oils, and again, those are the ones that stay liquid at room temperature. And I'll show you here in just a minute how the warm oils will naturally reduce in temperature just from adding my room temperature soft oils. This recipe also has a little bit of jojoba, which adds some luxury and some extra moisture boost to this recipe, as well as liquid lanolin. You can find this on Amazon for anybody who's interested, and I'm using it at a 2% rate for this recipe. And last but not least is castor oil, which is great for adding bubbles to soap recipes. And as you can see, the oils now have dropped to about 95 degrees all on their own. We're going to start with our lye solution at about 89 degrees. And you're going to carefully pour your lye solution into your oils. Don't forget to burp your stick blender before you start blending. That's to reduce any trapped air in the recipe. And I only blended this for about 10 seconds total, basically a 5-second burst, checked the soap, and then did it for another 5 seconds until I was satisfied that it had reached an emulsion. Now you're ready to add your fragrance that's been pre-blended with the clay, and you only need to mix by hand from this point onward so that you're not speeding up the trace or thickening your soap batter. So our main blue batch will be about 2 pounds, so go ahead and weigh that separately and put it aside. We'll add our blue mica here in just a moment. And the other 2 remaining colors, as I mentioned, get about 8 ounces each. And as I mentioned, you'll want a nice thin trace for this design because it takes some working time to lay the colors in there before you do the feather swirl. So you don't want a recipe that's going to thicken up too quickly. This is a hanger swirl tool that you can find online. Simply Google hanger swirl tool and you'll find a variety of tools for making feather swirls or just hanger swirl designs in general. You're going to want to lay down about a 1/2 inch of blue soap in the bottom before you start, and then you will carefully start laying in the other 2 colors. This soap was so runny that I actually had to switch to using small containers like this so that I didn't pour it in where it was too heavy or quick and sink to the bottom. I'm trying to get the colors basically to lay nicely one on top of each other without sinking. So I did have to switch over to using these very small pour containers to achieve that at first before switching over to my big pour containers. just because the soap was so incredibly fluid and I didn't want to mess up the design. You'll see later on, I'm able to successfully switch to these larger pour containers because the soap had thickened up enough that I didn't have to use the small containers. Okay, you're ready for your feather swirl. You're going to take your tool, align it right over that line of soap you've made. You're going to push down straight to the bottom of the mold, drag it along the bottom of the mold, and then pull it up along the side. And that's it. That is your feather. You will see me do this twice, and the only reason I did it twice is because my mold was a little bit longer than the tool. So I didn't want to leave the edges unfeathered, basically. So that's the only reason I did it twice here. For a simple swirled soap top, all you really need to do is lay down some lines of the various colors from your soap, and we'll gently swirl the top in an up and down manner with another tool. And it's pretty darn simple. That's all there is to it. Unfortunately, my video did not record on the swirling process, so I had to take it from one of my previous videos. And essentially, this is the exact same thing you would be doing with this soap design. You see the horizontal lines of soap in various colors laid down, and then you just use a small thin tool or a straw or a small dowel, and you just simply swirl up and down, and really only in the top 1/4 of your soap mold so you don't disturb this feather beneath. The soap was oven processed for several hours, and I did leave it in the oven till the next morning. And I went ahead and cut it. At this point, the soap was just hard enough for me to bevel the edges carefully. This is a simple vegetable peeler that I'm using. I like to bevel the edges because it gives them a nice clean look, and they also feel nicer in the hand too once the soap fully cures. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found this video helpful. If you haven't liked or subscribed, feel free to do so. This really helps support my channel and helps it grow. And I appreciate all of you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next soapy video. Have a great day, everyone.